his seventh season. Signed by the Commanders to a 2-year deal for $8 million over the 2 years. A 59th percentile run stopping grade among safeties from PFF this past season with the Saints. He mostly has played with the Detroit Lions, and the front office is extremely familiar with him because assistant GM Lance Newmark was with him for 5 years in Detroit. Feels like this would be the replacement to Jeremy Chinn, who was lost yesterday. 2-year deal for twice as much, $16 million total, to go out to Vegas to play for the Raiders. We're getting your reaction, 800-636-1067.
Worth noting super quick, it seems his most active games, at least in terms of tackling, just a quick box score hunt, were down the stretch. Started against Washington where he had 9 tackles, including 1 for a loss. Was kind of all over the field, then closed with 3 games where he had 8 tackles and kind of plays made in the second half of the season. Maybe they found a role, found something. So early on, he wasn't really a factor. After some injury time, came back and seemed to have his most impactful games down the stretch. Just something worth noting.
It takes a little while to start forming a roster, and there's no reason today to think about things in totality because there's not a football game tomorrow. It's like looking at a Polaroid right after it comes out of the camera. Nothing is finalized yet. We get that. But they'll have plenty of work to do moving forward on this defense. Because if you look at it as the moves versus what's in and what's out so far, John Allen leaves and Kinlaw replaces him at D tackle. Allen has been better throughout Kinlaw's time in the league. If you look at it at safety, what Chinn gave him last year versus what you'd project from Harris, Chinn is going to be hard to equal from Harris's perspective unless he elevates his game. And those are the swaps so far on the defensive side of the ball. Still need corner help, and the edge is really the important one here for me. Fowler's still a free agent. Remember the last time we heard about their negotiation with him was just the tweet that he deleted.
Yeah.
He was very angry and vulgar and had to delete the tweet and then said he'd been disrespected. So he, after 10.5 sacks, is on the market, meaning their starting defensive ends right now are Dorrance Armstrong and I guess Javonte Jean-Baptiste, their 7th-round pick from last season out of Notre Dame. But that obviously won't be who they're trotting out there when the season begins. Let's go to the phones, 800-636-1067. We'll start with Nate in D.C. on Grant and Danny. What's up, Nate?
Hey, how's it going today?
So, buddy.
Doing well.
Yeah, I just was calling to touch on that one point about that was made about the seemingly lack of a sense of urgency in free agency, so to speak. A large part of it is the vision that Adam Peters and Quinn have put together. The types of players that they're looking for, the ones with the chips on their shoulders that, that they've had teams give up on them and so forth and so on. And they speak life into that and translate that into heart on the field. It's hard to really, in today's current climate where a lot of these football matters are highly related to dollars now, you have to have some kind of level of discernment, right? Just to be able to find those guys that, it's not saying that the money doesn't matter, but for those guys, the football, the winning, that matters.
Yeah, there's a type that they're clearly looking for. Just to clarify, though, you didn't hear either of us say they have lacked urgency because they've already made the biggest trade probably that anybody's made in going and getting Laramie Tunsil. And they've also signed a player for $15 million a year, which is a pretty big splash in Kinlaw. And now they've added a safety today. So we're talking about 3 players in 26 hours. I'm not saying they have lacked urgency. What I'm saying is I am a little bit surprised they let the cornerback market, basically all the top guys, find homes. They didn't add one of them.
And that's what I was referring to most specifically with urgency. It isn't to imply that they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs and they're bored to tears, not doing anything and waiting for doing like a Nationals offseason.
And by
I'm
the
not
way,
saying that at all.
The edge market is not good.
Right.
Like, that's a problem. I think the corner market, there were 5 names. They could have signed one of them, and I can't do a cartwheel, but I would have let you help me, push me to do a cartwheel.
Yeah, we could have done one of those like claymation cartwheel things.
And they all found homes and they didn't get in. Mm-hmm. That's fine. They didn't want to overpay or pay the premium dollar of the start of the market. Okay, now what is kind of my question? And maybe the answer is the trade market. Maybe we've seen this with Adam Peters, with Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil. Maybe they get creative when we find out that they've made a call and there's someone who is going to need an extension in a year, and they're using their cap space in that way. And we're not seeing it where you go, who's the corner left that makes a lot of sense that could really be a good starter and go up against Devontae Smith for you in your division? Maybe that guy's on another team right now, not a free agent, and they make a trade. Let's go to Jake in Connecticut listening on the Always Free Odyssey app. What's up, Jake?
How you guys doing? Long-time fan, first time calling in.
Oh, we appreciate that.
It's so nice
Thank
of you to
buddy.
make that happen.
That's awesome. So I think, contrary to what everyone wants to believe sometimes, I don't think Trey Hendrickson solves the problem here. I think at 29, the biggest thing right now is the line of scrimmage, and Tyleik Williams at 30. I mean, he's projected to go 30th overall to the Bills, but if we can get him at 29, that'd be great. Walter Nolan, same thing. Collapse in the pocket and being able to get to the quarterback, put pressure on them, takes a lot of the pressure off of Sanders still, Lattimore, any corner we want to bring in. That's the biggest thing for me. I think last year we got beat a lot in the run, so being able to stop it first has to be priority number one.
Categorically
Appreciate
agree.
you, dude. Yeah.
Talked a lot about this yesterday. It was kind of one of my surprises with the Kinlaw move is that he's been knocked for his run defense over the years, and it's tantamount that they get better in that area after finishing 28th in yards per play against the run last season. I would have not only no problem taking an edge at 29, I think it's the betting likeliness, the favorite, so to speak, right now is that they take an edge. The only concern with that is because they only picked twice in the first 126 picks of the draft, I now think moving back at 29 is going to be the goal. If the right edge is there and they feel like a 10-sack guy who can also help against the run fell into their lap, then respectfully, you just have to take that player and get a lot better at that position and then move back at 61 and try to get, 2 or 3 guys in the 4th round who can make your team. But my guess is as much as they'd like to get an edge at 29, if things don't go their way moving forward, and right now, whether it's, the kid out of Boston College or anybody else, I think he had 16 and a half sacks and 80 tackles in college.
Pretty prolific, yeah.
Because you have 3 picks in the top 206, 3 picks for 5.5 rounds, it feels like you almost need to trade back now.
To a degree, but there's also the other side of the coin to me is you took some pressure off by getting Tunsil. In other words, I'm looking at the draft. Because I'm looking at the left tackle market first. I go, there's nobody here. There's no way to upgrade a tackle without drafting one. And in order to draft one that's worth a damn, you probably have to go high.
Well, but you would have just kept Brandon Coleman, which was kind of my plan anyway.
Yeah, if you wanted to upgrade a tackle, I hope Brandon Coleman keeps growing, or they clearly saw it as more of a priority, and they want to improve the offensive line. So you almost either have to go, because they're premium spots, you have to go either tackle, defensive end, corner, maybe wide out if you don't make the Deebo Samuel trade. But you do, which gives you some flexibility. So now, let's say for the sake of argument, they love Mike Green out of Marshall, who dominated the Senior Bowl, and he's there at 29. Maybe they just make that selection. If they don't, now you can move back and end up with maybe someone else that you like. Maybe James Pierce from Tennessee falls in the 2nd round. But because you've got something solidified and an anchor at one of these premium spots, you're not like, I have to stay put now. I have to get one of these 2 or 3 players at one of these impact positions. You've solved that. You knocked one off the board too.
I recently rode an elevator with him, by the way.
Who's that?
Mike Green.
Is that right?
Yeah, the defenseman from the Capitals
Long-time
on 90s
Caps
era
defenseman.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you talking about a Little League teammate Mike Green or a different guy?
I think it's the hockey player Mike Green who lives in Arlington. G's in Arlington, speaking of which. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, how you doing, man? The intangibles for me. Haven't watched this team for a long time. I honestly believe that coaches coach defensive schemes for running against the run, what's going to be in place. I don't know if Allen had that dog in him the last 2 years. Kinlaw coming from the Jets, coming to a playoff perennial team, it just may spark him. And I know Dan Quinn is one of those motivating type of coaches. As far as Will, the safety, I believe, I don't know. We just have to wait and see. These guys are coming from teams, man, to where they really weren't going anywhere. And sometimes, man, motivation is a key factor, but there are plenty of players in the draft. We got some draft picks coming, and
Not a lot
ton.
of them,
Not as many
honestly.
as before.
But yes, there will be some draft players added. There's no doubt. I do like the point he made about, and this is funny to say about the Commanders because we haven't been able to for years and years and years. But the Caps, as an example, who had a great culture, benefited from this. And the Nationals, when they were really good and won a World Series, benefited from this, which is occasionally you go get a guy from a team that doesn't win and you bring them into your building and they get better. We've seen it countless times for every Brett Connolly, and even TJ Oshie was a good young star.
PLD.
And, I mean, it's a million times over with the Capitals. Look at all the guys they brought in, like Dubois, this season. You come to a place where they win every year and the culture's really good and the leadership's awesome, and that might be Washington now. There's something to that where maybe Javon Kinlaw needed a place like this. Now, he didn't do it in San Francisco where they were
winning pretty good
to the NFC title game every single year, but maybe this is the right fit in the right building. I do like that they know the players they bring in, though. I know you said this with Deebo Samuel and Adam Peters, right? Laramie Tunsil, there's not like a direct tie per se, but in this case, your assistant general manager, who's got a pretty loud voice in that room with Peters and Lance Newmark, was with this guy for 5 years in Detroit. Let's go to JT in Hanover on Grant and Danny. What's up?
Good afternoon, guys. Great show as always. Listen, I wanted to ask you guys what you were thinking, how you guys feel about this. So let's just assume that the money for a guy like, let's say, Javon Holland, who ended up signing in the Giants, or DK Metcalf or whatever. Let's say the money is in terms of the contract is pretty even. If you guys remember, right around the break, right around the break, around week 13 or 14, the Commanders' bye week, there was this report from Schefter. As a matter of fact, he made the report twice about the team, about the players wanting to come to Washington, the players telling their agents, hey, get me to Washington. I'm looking at the first 2 days, and I know it's still early, but I'm looking at some of these free agents where, again, if the money or the contract was fairly similar, I'm seeing a lot of guys who the Commanders may have had interest in are signing elsewhere. And so I'm just wondering what you guys' opinion of in terms of how people are still viewing this organization, even though we've turned it around 180 degrees for the better. It just seems like when given an opportunity to choose, I'm seeing a lot of guys going elsewhere. And
it's a good question. It's a fair one. I appreciate it. I remember that report. Sorry, we're up against it. Here's the thing: is the answer is I don't know, and that's not a cop out. I have no idea if Trayvon Moehrig has family in Carolina, and that's why he signed there. I have no idea if Washington was interested because they're so tight-lipped. It's not like they're not advertising, hey, we came in second on Javon Holland. We offered the same money, but he turned us down. They could have offered nothing. They could have offered more. We have no clue. Individually, why someone chooses to sign somewhere or agitates to go a certain place, there could be a billion reasons. It could be family. It could be the nearby school system is great. It could be they offer you $1 more. It could be your arch rival signed with the team that you're going to play twice a year. It could be a team that wronged you, a team that was kind to you in the draft a couple of years ago, and you always wanted to play there. I have no clue. The point is that we were making necessarily when that report came out, I remember, and then kind of this offseason is if there's a tie, hypothetically, if there is such a thing, Washington's now the cool place. So, like, I bet you people are now excited to get that, hey, your agent is reporting to you Washington's interested. Whereas before it's, nothing else comes up. Washington's interested. I think that's the difference.
Well, you don't have to overpay, number one. You don't have to play the loser's tax. That's true. And number two, I think it can be the veteran 1 year, I want a shot to compete guy.
Your Wagner situation.
Exactly. Ertz maybe doesn't come back if they're 5-12 last year.
Right.
Wagner's not interested if they're 6-11 last year. But make no mistake about it. When you're in the prime of your career, most of these guys that are getting these big contracts, they could dress it up however they want to. And this is not me. It's not a pejorative. I'm not being nefarious or like trying to act like this is a bad thing. They're going to the team that pays them the most money. You get a couple of cracks at a contract for huge money in this league, and it's not even guaranteed to you, by the way. You're looking for the biggest guaranteed number ever because the monopoly figure that we hear over X number of years, you're probably never going to see. And so if Washington offers the most money, for the most part, they'll get the player. If they offer less money, they have a chance now to get the player they probably didn't before. Not that much more complicated for me than that.